as she struggled to put up a smile for her overjoyed husband. Omalicha pretended to be a happy wife while wondering what she got herself into. She wouldn't cook for her husband or take care of the house as a good wife would. She would ask him for gifts and gifts, not minding if he had enough customers to keep up her insatiable desire for material things. She would dress like the wives of the cabinet chiefs and eat as they did, not minding her husband's financial capacity. Once upon a time, in a prosperous village called Neni in southeastern Nigeria, there lived a young man called Nonso. Nonso was a good and very hardworking young man. He lives in the eastern part of the village, which is the suburb part of the village, a place meant for average and below average citizens of the village. He could fix anything that looks like a machine. He could dismantle and assemble various parts. He fabricates and is also a very good goldsmith who learned so well from his master, Okali, a master in the early African science technology, dealing with items made from bronze, fabrications, blacksmithing, and concreting. He worked so many years teaching people who cared to learn the art abound in the African early technological system. He made his mark and did several inventions and investigations which benefited the people both within and amongst its environs. The problem Okali had was that there were not many young men who had the courage and patience to learn. This has resulted in several works done by Okali going into extinction due to the inability for him to transfer much of what he knows to the future generation. Nonso was one young man always seen with Okali and following him in his footsteps. He could do many things on his own, even if his master was not around to direct him. Nonso didn't have much because his master believed in helping the people and not making himself rich and oppressive. Nonso will follow Okali from place to place in order to respond to the pleas of the villagers, solving their problems and making them productive in their farms or in their trades. The fishermen would also wait for the door to fix their boats and nets before going on board fishing. Okali and his boy Nonso were individuals the village could not do without. On the wake of a new farming season, the water turbine which pumps water to the farms of the people of Neni and the neighboring villages had not worked. The advisors advised the king, saying, "Igwe, if nothing is done, we will die of hunger. We have never had it this bad," they lamented. "All the people around our kingdom depend on us for food. The traders coming into our kingdom are also withdrawing because they don't achieve the purpose of coming to our kingdom due to scarcity." They all bemoaned the situation and what they could do to alleviate the suffering of the people, as the drought experience was becoming too frequent. They needed a miracle and a fast one. The turbines helped send water to the farms through ridges made all over the kingdom to carry water to every farm settlement. The turbines are being operated by able-bodied men who moved the lever up and down and systematically. Water pumps out from what looks like a cave. The villagers call it a gift from the gods, but it was actually a gift given to the kingdom by early European whites who came at that time. Tales have it that Europeans came in droves during the Atlantic coastal trade. They continued their trading until, at the peak of their business, many of them became very sick to the point of death. They were beaten mercilessly by female Anopheles mosquito. Many in other parts died, but those at Neni treated by Odo, the great herbalist, and seer, whom just like Okali, who had mastered the art of medicine from roots and herbs, Odo was called up to know how he could assist the white men. He mixed herbs into a calabash, and one after the other he administered it on them, and just like magic, the sick men stood up to their feet according to the dictates of Odo and his African traditional medication. Many whites were brought to Neni for healing at that time. The ones that despised his solution died before they could be convinced. It was a glorious time at Neni, as the survivors of this moment decided to build the turbine at the place Odu showed them. Since then, water and food was not lacking in Neni kingdom. King Ikenso called upon his chiefs. There must be a way out. The men can no longer put our turbines in order because they didn't seem to understand anything about it. We have to find a solution fast. Chief Obi, in optimism, said to the king, "There is a man who could save us, but he is from the slums." At once all the chiefs chuckled and mumbled, saying, "Is there anything those poor people can do? We do not want liabilities who think they can get food from our elite homes." Some said that all the poor people know was to eat and drink. Can they even understand the ways and thoughts of the white man? All the things they said were enough to discourage the king, but he kept quiet, thinking deep into what Chief Obi had suggested. Early the next morning, King Ikenso the Great bought Chief Obi's idea and sent for Okali. Okali, who had been thinking about the mystery behind the stiff turbines, was so afraid to receive the king's royal entourage, who wanted him at once. "I have no idea what to do there," he thought to himself. "How come the king has placed much faith in me?" he thought further. "What is the problem, sir?" Nonso asked his master. Having taken much of the emissary's time, he decided to turn them down. He thought about what he could tell them so they could leave. Immediately, Nonso's voice broke his thought. "We could save the village if only we try. I see those big paddles in my dreams." Nonso's words gave him courage as he declared his willingness to live with them and to try to help the village. They rode all through to the palace without saying a word to each other. They both imagined how best to approach the problem at hand. Nonso thought about the rotations he sees in his dream and what he will do to align it like that. But Okali's mind was filled with the fear of failure. He thought what people would say of him in event of failure, as the news had gone far and wide that the water would run as Okali the scientist is going to fix the turbines. Both Okali and Nonso gazed at the machine for a while without saying a word. Nonso, having seen something larger than what he had seen in his dreams, was now speechless. Okali, on his part, who had no idea about what could be done, broke the silence. He said to Nonso, "All inventions come from inspiration. You have the key to the fate of the entire kingdom." He then ordered the people, trying so hard for a long time to make it work, to operate the turbines as they used to originally. When they started it off as they always do, at once Nonso shouted, pointing at a shaft. Okali immediately understood what he meant, and after about 2 hours of ingenuity, fresh water started flowing like it had never flown before. There was jubilation everywhere in and around the kingdom. Many people who had lost hope came alive. farmers practically danced inside the water as it flowed through. The royal cabinet celebrated in oneness. They had not been this joyous before. For 3 seasons, there had not been the flow of water. Nonso thought to himself, truly, inventions come through inspiration. Okali talked about the roles Nonso played in the quest to fix the turbines, which made the king Nonso to invite him to the palace for a royal handshake. Nonso and his master soon returned to their part of the village from whence they came from. They have achieved recognition but didn't get elevation into the chieftaincy order of the village. They still remained commoners. Nonso on his own part got the attention of Omalicha, a very beautiful girl whom he had loved all the while. But Omalicha, due to reasons best known to her, didn't give Nonso the required attention. However, at that moment, she was all over Nonso like a bee would be all over honey. They started talking about the future together and how beautiful it would be. Omalicha never let Nonso out of her sight. She would ask him when he would come to pay her bride price. She would tell him how many men were jostling for her attention and how he would lose her if he didn't take his chances. All this made Nonso too insecure. He told his poor parents and master. Soon, they all prepared to go see Omalicha and her people. Everything went well. Bride price paid and Nonso returned with his wife. His master made efforts for him to relocate to his small abode he had secured with the little money he saved for him. Nonso, seeing this, was very happy and thanked his master for what he had done for him. He took his new wife and left to his own house. He took some money he had to buy some things for the house. He was satisfied that it wasn't a bad start, since he had always lived and worked under his master all this while. He hoped that with hard work he would make more money and improve on the condition of his life and that of his family. He thought to himself, I would set up my work store in one room and use the other one as our home. He had already designed all he hoped to achieve in his mind and prayed to the gods to bless him and his new family. Omalicha on her own part came into the house and saw how Nonso had set everything up. His house was humble, small, neat and well organized, but she felt disappointed and asked him why he had settled for such a house and in such a place after being a champion. She wondered why he didn't use a lot of money to set up his home. She asked herself, where is the money the king and chiefs must have given him? All these thoughts filled her mind as she struggled to put up a smile for her overjoyed husband. Omalicha pretended to be a happy wife while wondering what she got herself into. She wouldn't cook for her husband or take care of the house as a good wife would. She would ask him for gifts and gifts, not minding if he had enough customers to keep up her insatiable desire for material things. She would dress like the wives of the cabinet chiefs and eat as they did, not minding her husband's financial capacity. All advice from her friend Uju to be patient with her young and loving husband fell on deaf ears as she continued in her unethical activities. Let me into your honey pot. You are my legally married wife. I have not had you for more than a month now, Nonso would cry to his beautiful wife, and Omalicha would not give in. She would curse her husband for deceiving her and pretending to be a rich man. She even told him she doesn't want to spoil her beautiful shape. This went on and on and Omalicha will only go from bad to worse. She will not cook nor do house chores, leaving everything for her husband to do. Nonso tried so hard to please her by working even at night to meet up her demands, but the more he tried, the more she slid away from him. Nonso, having seen the state of things with Omalicha, having patiently loved her for over a year with no child or happiness, confided in Uju, her friend, to talk to her on his behalf. Uju on her part would talk to her friend, and her friend Omalicha would scold Uju to leave her and her husband alone. Uju would go from time to time to cook and take care of Nonso. Sometimes she would stay till late in the evening, and Omalicha, a married woman, would not come back home. Uju would advise Nonso not to lose hope, but to continue in his work and take rest, because Omalicha is not worth his life. Omalicha made Ozo her close friend, a man who comes to their house for repairs of farm tools and other little machines. Ozo worked for a wealthy chief who contracts farmers to work for him. The chief would pay him the wages of the farmers, and Ozo would shortchange the payments and sometimes would owe them for days, having extra money to spend on Omalicha and make her promise of a better life than the one she had with her husband. Omalicha on her part got blown away. She would have her demands met by Ozo at the expense of the farm workers' pay. They were made to believe that the chief hasn't sent their wages due to unavailability of banks within the area. Weeks rolled by, and Omalicha started sleeping with Ozo, even in the farmhouse where Ozo is supposed to be a supervisor. On one occasion, a laborer caught them red-handed and told her husband, who was helpless, and wished within him that all these would not be true. At the beginning of a new farming season, Nonso had fabricated some semi-mechanized farm implements for the big farmers in the neighboring kingdom. He told his wife to stay in his shop and to attend to customers who would come to pick up their tools and implements. Omalicha, in excitement, bade her husband goodbye as he carried the items to be delivered and set out on his trip. Omalicha, having seen her husband off, stayed in the shop attending to customers going in and out. She thought to herself why she was treating her husband, who is such a talent, badly, looking at the kind of work he does and the number and caliber of people that come to see her husband for advice. She even saw how lucrative his business was, if only it could be managed well and efficiently. She thought to herself that she would be a changed woman and become a good wife to her husband. She convinced herself that she could be better, especially if she joins her husband in his business. Thoughts filled her head as the business day wound down. Just before close of the day's business, Ozo stormed into the shop to put in some demands, only to find out Omalicha's husband wasn't at home. He went straight to Omalicha in sexual advance towards her. He tried holding her, but she would object. Ozo tried and tried, but she reluctantly shoved him away. Ozo, having been so engrossed in heated desire for her body, now brought out all the money given to him for the farming project. He handed it over to Omalicha. It was a huge amount of money she couldn't resist. This made her to fall once again. Ozo immediately, without wasting any time, took Omalicha right there inside her husband's shop. Ozo, a well-known Oliver Twist, asked his lover Omalicha for more, and Omalicha, not being able to say no and was still in the act, agreed to even follow Ozo to the big town as he demanded. they both left to the big farmhouse in the city, a place used as guest house for farm owners who come from time to time. They lived there for some time until Omalicha noticed she was pregnant. Nonso already had the full information about what transpired, went in search of his beautiful wife. On entering the farmhouse, Omalicha never gave her husband a listening ear. She told him she was tired of suffering in his hut without a future to look up to. That day, Nonso left so disappointed and depressed. He wondered where he got it wrong and also why this woman remains insatiable. Uju always comes to take care of Nonso, a man now so lonely and broken. He has sunk himself into his work, making him more productive and efficient. Okali, who was now very old and frail, was approached on how they were able to bring back to working state a facility built so many years ago by a foreign engineering company. They wanted a technical intercontinental head. Okali immediately referred them to take Nonso, his boy. Nonso, now a clean, handsome and young man, alighted from his jeep on a tour of facilities in the rural areas in company of his driver and new wife Uju, whom he married when they both returned from UK, a peaceful and adorable partner whom he wished he had met earlier. Omalicha, now looking older and pale, begged Nonso to forgive her, and while stammering, begged him to take her back. The villagers narrated how Ozo, who was a womanizer, always beats Omalicha for confronting him about the numerous women he brings to the farmhouse. Ozo, on his part, couldn't account for funds given to him for the farmers, which made the farmers protest, attracting the attention of the owners, who then sacked him and reported him to the warrant chief, who made him cough out all he had in agony. Omalicha cried in regret watching the man who loved her so much in the company of her childhood friend, Uju, holding hands and flirting while living a life of affluence and plenty. Lessons are that we should be content with what we have and also be able to be mentored, to learn a trade or art instead of going for quick money, and to be diligent in the work we do. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please like, share, subscribe and help my channel. Tell me in the comment section if Omalicha deserved a second chance. Is Nonso right to have married Uju, his ex-wife's childhood friend? Did Uju throw herself at Nonso? Kindly let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Love you all. Bye.